Hello to everyone out there. If you have any questions for everything, all you have to do is let us know in the comment section there. We love hearing from you folks. So thanks so much for joining us over here. And don't forget, if you enjoy this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to hit that thumbs up. Be sure to hang out with us here. When you're on YouTube, we know it's the thumbs up. When you're on TikTok, whatever it is, the diamonds, the likes, the taps that you need to tap there. Yeah, definitely join in with all of that there. Now we are here doing this live, but we do want to say let's record a little bit of this so that we can have this for the future there. So I just want to make sure that our producers behind the camera here that we're recording on both of our cameras so that we have that nice video that we can use later. That way you can always reference any of the questions that you might be having about these three tools that we have here. Now we're going to do this on one of my favorite topics today. We have our tool tiers for chainsaws here, not just any chainsaws, but our cordless chainsaws to be specific right here. So I've got an awesome setup right here with our 24V HCS, our little compact 5-inch chainsaw right here, our 24V 10CS right here, which is our 10-inch chainsaw you see right there. And then we got the big one right here, one of my absolute favorites, our 24V CS16, or actually our 24V X2 CS16. Now we'll get into all of these three saws here in general, but I want to talk through the levels that we're talking about here, sort of, how you can start off with a chainsaw and work your way up as needed, and why our 24-volt battery platform is the way to go. Because when you're out there and getting that work done, sometimes you need different levels of tools. If you just need to get every little branch cut up, here and there, you've got a compact chainsaw right here to help you out to get that work done. If you need some serious power, but you don't need a ton of size, you've got the great step up here with the 24V10CS. You got that extra size in the motor there. You got that extra size in the saw there to get more cutting done. Now, if you really need to kick it up a notch and you really need to get a lot of stuff cut up and you need to put a lot of power down for a big old tree that you're cutting down, well, this right here is the saw you're going to want to look for. So that's really what we're talking about here, moving up and stepping up with these tools as the tasks that you're looking to get bigger and harder to do, so to speak. Well, they don't get harder necessarily when you have tools like this at your disposal. So why don't we start off talking about the first chainsaw that we have right here, which is our 24V HCS, one of my favorite little saws that we have in there here in the lineup. Compact, super lightweight, as you can tell right here, weighs in at less than a couple of pounds there, or just around 3 pounds, I should say, actually, there specifically. Now, this has a 5-inch bar and chain that you see right here. So that's 5 inches, that's 4.5 inches of cutting capacity on that 5-inch length there. You've got a built in riving knife right here, which is a really protective feature. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a second here. But really, what you have is an easy saw to use when you want to get out there and you want to trim up branches, when you want to trim up sort of small pruning tasks that you have for your trees, when you want to trim things like firewood, pre-cut firewood and stuff like that you want to get those nice easy cuts in. This is a really nice compact saw to use for a lot of that kind of stuff. I love actually using this for so many different things out in the yard and garden. It's kind of an easy saw to grab and do a lot with. For example, if you have a lot of briar bush, those thin, viney, sort of prickly bushes there, and you want to grab them with a big, hefty glove there and slice right through them, well, this is the kind of saw that you can do that with, because of all the saws that we have right here, this is a saw that can truly be used in sort of a semi one-handed method there. You can really just hold it with one hand and get a lot of cutting done. Now, this doesn't mean that you're giving up on any power, though. For that 5-inch bar and chain, we have a 230-watt brushless motor powering things up here. So a ton of power here in this design to get a lot of stuff cut up easily and effectively. And that's the thing that I love about this saw. This is small but mighty, an incredible way to get out there and get work done when it comes to trimming things up. So this is definitely the saw that you're going to use in the beginning there. This is definitely the saw that you're going to want to go out and trim up those small plants with. This is definitely a saw that you're going to want to go out there and trim up those branches that end up falling in the yard there that you might want to turn into kindling, or you just want to clean up. If you got those small branches and you don't want to cut them up with pruners or anything like that by hand, this is a powerful sort of the oversized pruner, so to speak, the powerhouse pruner that we have right here to get a lot of small cutting done. And it's very, very simple to use with this compact chainsaw here. What we do to power this up is, of course, we take our 24-volt battery that we have right here. This is our 24-volt 2 amp hour battery that we have right here. So relatively compact, nice and lightweight, slots right into the back of the tool right there and gives us that cordless power to get out there. So none of the hassle of the gas with this saw right here. No struggling around when it comes to using the saw. There are a couple of other things that we're going to do here when it comes to using this saw as well. And one of the important things that you want to do when you're cutting with your chainsaw is to make sure that that bar and chain is properly oiled up, properly lubricated there, so you can get things cutting smoothly. You can get that chain to smoothly run around that bar. Now, in this case right here, this compact saw comes with a little dropper of oil that you see right there. That's our little zero point 0.7 fluid ounce dropper of bar and chain oil. And it does come full. We've used this a few times here in the workshop here. But let's take a look at how we lubricate that bar and chain before we get cutting with this compact saw. So let's get nice and close up on the bar right there. And you can see all we have to do to lubricate that bar and chain right before we start to cut anything with this. So with this right here, we're going to drop just a couple of drops of oil there onto our bar and chain here. So there it is. You can see that dropper there. You can see that little needle on the dropper there. All we have to do is, we're going to pick one tooth right there. We're going to go to another tooth right there. We drop another drop right there. It's very simple. You can see there's barely any oil on there, but that's exactly what we want. We just want enough to sort of lubricate this so it spins around there. That's a really, really easy way to put that power down and easily get things spinning up quickly here. Now, when you're using this, and this is after extended use, this is after using it several different times here, what's going to end up happening with this saw here is that chain, as it spins around there, it's going to generate some heat. The warmer it gets, the more it's going to expand there. So when it expands, it's going to get a little loose here. And this is going to happen with all the chainsaws, and I'll show you exactly how to do this for every single one of the chainsaws that we have here in the lineup. But for this right here, one of the things that I like is that it's an easy tensioning job here. So all we have to do, if we want to tension this up, if this chain gets loose here, all we have to do is take this knob right here. This is the cap knob. We're going to unscrew that. That's going to loosen that up, make it easy for us to adjust here. And then the base of the handle right there, look at that. We've got that built-in Allen key right there on hand, ready to go whenever we need it. We're going to spin this around over here. You can see right in here, we've got that nice little slot there for that Allen key. There you go. And we can adjust things in and out just like that. So very, very easy to adjust that. Very, very easy to get that tension. We can quickly tighten that up right there. There's that nice, ooh, that's nice and perfectly tight right there. Tighten this back up because now we're ready to cut here. And there we go. We're pretty much ready to go with this store Allen key right back there. And we're ready to get out there and get cutting. So nice and easy setup you have right there. Everything you need is on the tool itself. You don't need to go back to the workshop or anything like that. No need to go back to the shed or the garage. You have everything right here on hand. And then, of course, to power it up, you take that 24-volt battery they have right there. You're going to slide that right into the base of your handle there, lock that into place, and you're ready to start cutting. Now, before you get cutting, as it comes with every chainsaw that we have in the lineup, we always want to make sure that everyone out there stays protected. Make sure to wear your PPE. That's going to be eye protection, ear protection, gloves, wearing chainsaw chaps if you're cutting by your legs, folks, and, of course, wearing a hard hat if you're cutting overhead. Move these out of the way here because we are going to do a little bit of cutting with this chainsaw here. And what we're going to show off here is I've got a 1x3 of pine here. I'm going to show you how fast this thing can just blast through a board like this. So we're going to clamp this up right over here. I'm going to get my PPE on. I'm going to get my eye protection and my ear protection on, as well as some gloves to cut this up with. And you're going to see the kind of power that we have right here in this amazing little saw, and why this thing is such a great way to start off when you want to get into that chainsaw game there. This is definitely level one when it comes to the chainsaw world here, but this is a definite step up in level one here. We're talking about a really powerful little saw here to get a lot of work done. So power this up. All I have to do is hit the safety switch on the side there and pull the trigger, and this thing powers up easily. 230-watt brushless motor here. Now we're going to cut up this right here. This is our this is a 1x3 of pine right here, or 1x12 of pine right here. Sorry, I'm just going to cut across right here with this, and I just want you to see how fast this thing blasts right through that piece of wood. All it takes is that safety switch right here. We're going to click that on the side there. I'm going to pull the trigger, just as you can see right there. There we go. There's my finger pulling that trigger. I'm going to power this up, and just take a look at how easy this slices right through here. Just like butter. Burning through right there. Look at that. Nice, quick, and easy, and a powerful way to rip through wood there. Now, you can see here up top, this riving knife has played an important part in this saw cutting capability here. What this does is it protects the saw from twisting in the cut, which can happen if you're using something with a small chain like this. That small bar and chain can be a little bit thin for when you're cutting, and so that's why we made sure to add this right here. And you don't see this on many other compact chainsaws like this. This little riving knife right here really plays an important role, in getting the work done. Because what it stops you from doing, it stops this from twisting. And that when you twist, the chain actually has sort of two actions right here. And let's unplug this while we talk about this right here. So we know at the top of the chain and at the base of the chain here, they're moving in two different directions because the chain is moving around that bar. And that bottom of the chain is pulling in to the chainsaw there. And that's great because that pulls you up against what you're cutting. It pulls you up against what you're cutting there as you start. but this is pushing away. This is actually pushing material away from you. And what happens is if you twist this there, this top chain part right here might catch and actually kick this out and kick this into you. And you don't want that. That's a kickback. We don't like that. That's something that we want to avoid. And in this case right here, we've got that riving knife that helps us prevent this from twisting and causing that top chain to touch anything and kick back at you. Now, on top of that, it does act as a very nice guard for your hand to protect your hand from anything happening there. So really nice to have that protection built in there, and really nice to have a powerful compact saw to have a lot of fun with. I mean, my favorite thing about this saw is that this is one of the most fun tools to use out there when it comes to cutting up anything. It just makes it easy. It just makes it a lot of fun. So whether it's cutting up firewood, whether it's cutting up things like bits of branch there that might be ready to come down, if you have vines or anything like that, like I said, briar bush, if you have any of those thin sort of wispy vines there, this is one of my favorite things. You grab all those vines, grab this right here, cut right through them, and you don't have to worry about, you don't have to worry about trying to get in there with something bigger and heavier. This is going to cover a lot of the small tasks right here, and this is why I sort of consider this the level 1 chainsaw. This is definitely the starter mode right here, but a lot of fun and a lot of power, and most importantly, a lot of versatility with the tool, compact and easy to use, just like this. So I absolutely love this amazing little saw. Great way to get out there, a great way to get a lot of stuff cut up here. Really fun little saw that we have right here to get a lot of work done with. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this over here to the side. Actually, you know what? Why don't we keep this? We keep everything on display while we're messing around with our chainsaws here. We're going to move on to our level 2 saw here while we bring everything back here. We have a lot of sawdust here on the workbench as we've been having some fun here with the saws. So nice to have some fun in here cutting everything up there. We'll scoop some of that up there, just sort of keep it out of the way here. So the next chainsaw that we're going to talk about here, the next level up, the next step in your chainsaw journey is going to be with our 10CS right here. This is our 10-inch chainsaw. So we are doubling the size of our 24-volt cutting capacity here. With this, we had 5-inch bar and chain. With this, we have a 10-inch bar and chain for 9.5 inches of cutting right there. So plenty of cutting power that you have right here with the saw. Now, if you've been watching so far and you have any questions about anything, feel free to drop a comment in there. And I also will say, if you're enjoying this, if you want to see more about chainsaws, you want to learn about any of the tools that we have, feel free to let us know. We love hearing from you. And don't forget, hit that thumbs up, throw in a subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on TikTok, we love the likes. We appreciate everyone saying hi there. Send us that, click that little heart there. Give us those likes. We appreciate it. And let your friends know that, if they want to know anything about how to do anything in the outdoor spaces, we have the answers here at Snow Joe. We're happy to share them with you. So any questions, anything at all that you want to know, we're happy to share that with you there. So we're going to start off talking about our next level up, our level 2 chainsaw, in my opinion, right here, our 10CS. This has already got some features on it that you're going to see here that you don't normally see, or that you didn't see on the HCS right here, and some great features on this saw that really make me happy. Now, I'll tell you this, I've worked with chainsaws a lot in my life. I used to be a professional arborist actually for a little while, and this is a kind of saw that you would see in a lot of spaces. A saw that is lightweight like this is relatively lightweight right here. It's powerful with a 600-watt brushless motor. Now, this 10-inch bar and chain, sort of almost not quite a single-handed saw here, but a lightweight saw, compact saw like this. This is actually what we would call a climber saw. This is the kind of saw that you would see that arborists would use to climb up trees. And particularly for trees where you can't cut them down at the base, you're going to want to cut them down little by little from top to bottom there. So you're going to bump, 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 bump in little sections there. And the reason that you're going to use a saw like this for that is climbing up a tree is going to be hard. It's a lot of stress, and it's not something that you want to have a big heavy gas saw up there with you. And in fact, a lot of the saws that they carry are little compact versions of gas saws like this. And I'll tell you, knowing the folks that do that, and personally, I didn't do much of that particular work myself when I was an arborist. I was mostly cutting up trees that were down on the ground. But when you have to do the top down kind of cutting there, I knew some folks that were doing that. I tell you, I'm not great with heights, so I try to stay firm on the ground as much as I can. But this saw right here is sort of the perfect companion for those folks there. And in fact, you can actually see this is modeled after that style of saw, because right over here, there's a little D-ring hook. And that little D-ring hook that you see right there, that hook is there for you to attach your shoulder strap to and actually carry this up with you. So you can throw it cross body for you. Now, the reason that I love this little saw in general And the reason that it's good for that kind of stuff is that, of course, when you get up top there, you want a compact saw that you can cut with. You don't necessarily want a big, heavy saw, but also at the same time, you want a saw that can give you some power. Now, in the past, these have all been gas saws, but in this case right here, obviously we have a 24-volt saw. And I know a lot of arborists that are moving towards that direction there, because trying to do a pull start on a saw all the way up, maybe you're 50 feet in the air on top of a tree there, that's not particularly fun. I'll tell you right now, that's a hard thing to do. Not to mention bringing gas up with you to refill that saw if it runs out of gas. That's a big pain in the butt. And particularly if you're idling your saw, if you have a gas chainsaw and you're idling it, it takes up energy. It actually takes up that gas. It actually eats away at that gas pretty consistently. So you can actually run through a ton of gas just waiting to cut, making sure that the crane that you're setting up to catch those logs, or whomever is going to catch those logs, can actually handle it in those idle times. Either you have to turn your saw off, which you really don't want to do, because then you have to pull start it again, or you have to let that saw idle down, and you can get worried about the fact that you might run out of that gas. In this case right here, we're powering up with our 24-volt battery. Now, it's the same 24-volt battery system that powers up our little compact mini saw right there, but you can see right here we have a bigger battery that comes in the kit here. It's our 4 amp hour battery. That slides right into the back right here, and that gives us that immediate power to get out there and to get cutting with. So really amazing design that we have here with the saw. I'll explain why the saw is not turning on in just a second here, but you can see that this really gives you that compact cordless power. This is nice and lightweight here. This weighs in at less than 8 pounds right here, or less than 8.5 pounds, I should say, actually, and very compact and comfortable to get a lot of cutting done with. You can see that we've got 9.5 inches of cutting on that bar and chain right there. We've got a lot of features packed into this saw we should probably talk about that really give it the step up from our HCS in terms of the amount of features that you see on a bigger saw like this. So let's take a look here. Obviously, we've got our 10-inch bar and chain for 9.5 inches of cutting there. On the inside of that bar and chain, we have one of my favorite sets of features right here, which are metal bucking spikes. These spikes right here dig into the log that you're cutting, dig into the side of whatever it is you're cutting up there, and they give you that leverage there to trim things up properly here with that design. They give you that ability to jam this into that log and to lever your way through that cut by using those teeth to pull down the base of the saw there. And then as you continue to do that, you're going to get a faster, more consistent straight cut with something like that. Now, I like that these are metal. A lot of times I see these as plastic. I prefer the metal ones. They're going to last longer. They're going to actually bite in. They're actually going to do the work that you want them to. So really nice that we see that there on this saw. You can see here, there's that D-ring hook that I was talking about earlier. So you can easily attach a shoulder strap to the saw. This is a nice lightweight saw you can throw across your shoulder. And with the power that you have in this saw, you have actually a powerful 600 watt motor in this amazing saw right here. So when it comes to cutting things up, if you're dealing with a lot of branches, a lot of firewood, for example, this is a powerful saw to deal with that. If you're dealing with a lot of smaller trees, let's say you have, little small 10-inch trees or anything like that, this is actually a great saw to cut down some of those small diameter trees. Now, what's also great about this, and something that really also shows that this is a good move upwards here, is you've got that nice bar and chain oiler right here. So as you're getting bigger with the saws, as the tasks that you are doing are getting larger, this saw right here, you fill up, you're getting more features like this. You're going to see these sort of what I like to call professional features get added in here. So that automatic bar and chain oiling system, you fill up this tank here with bar and chain oil, and that's going to automatically lubricate that bar with that oil there and keep things running smoothly. So I really like that. It makes it very, very easy to keep cutting with this saw here. All you have to do if you want to fill that up is open up that tank right there and fill things up. Now, right over here on the side of the saw here is our chain brake. Now, this is a really important safety feature when it comes to using this saw here, and I'll show you exactly what this is for. This is a safety feature on this saw. Now, the first thing you see right here is the chain brake has two positions. It can either be forward like this, or it can be back like that. You just saw that there. Now I keep it forward. This is an important safety thing when you're using your chainsaw. If you are cutting with that saw, one of the things that you want to make sure about is that whenever you put it down, that it's not going to turn on without you wanting it to. So if you pick it up and you accidentally hit the safety and then you pull that trigger, you don't want it to turn on accidentally. So the trick is that you always knock this forward. So every time I'm done cutting, even if I'm still holding the saw, I'm going to knock that forward to make sure that chain doesn't spin up on me. It's a great habit to get into, and it's an important feature on this saw. Now, once this thing does power up, and we are going to throw some ear protection on to power this saw up, and you can see the kind of power that we have here while we're using the saw. So slide on some safety gear right here. We're going to power this up by pulling that back. You can see it locks in that back position there, so that gives you that nice surety that you're going to get that power here. Get the safety switch up at the top of the saw right there. And we're going to pull that trigger here, and that's going to power this saw up here. So you can see that this amazing little saw, 10 inches right here, powerful 600-watt motor there. It's as simple as that. No pull start, no struggling. You have all that power roaring through this saw to get that work done. Wow, a lot of power there. Let's take a look here at what the chain brake is for, though. Now, as you're cutting, what can happen is if the tip of the bar and chain right here, or if part of the chain right here catches on a log, it may cause the saw to kick back like that. What you don't want is that saw to come right back at you. In fact, that's what this guard is here for in general, and that's why you should always cut when you're cutting with a chainsaw that has two handles like this. Right hand on this, left hand on this. Doesn't matter if you're right-handed or left-handed. This is always the cutting preference that you want to have right here. And the reason is that you always want this hand on that secondary handle to come into contact with this right here, which is your chain brake. And let's take a look at what that does. So we're going to imitate that saw kicking back at us. I want to show you exactly what this does right here. We'll pull that trigger right there. The saw kicks back, and you can see right there, my wrist hits that chain brake right there, knocks it forward. And what that does, my finger's still on the trigger there. It stops that chain dead in its tracks. So that way you don't have a full speed chain heading back at you, keeping this a safe saw to use whenever you're out there. And that's a really important feature for a saw that's compact like this. You know, these small compact saws like this are great to get into tight spaces with, to get into those areas in your yard and garden where you want to cut things up. One of the things that I like about this is that this is a powerful sort of semi all around saw. It's not really going to cut down a big tree, but what it is going to do, it's going to trim up a ton of firewood. It's going to cut down those smaller trees. It's going to cut up those branches, those larger branches that may have fallen in your yard. So as you level up in terms of cutting up more things in the yard and garden, this is the kind of saw that you want to grab for that bigger work because it's got that extra power behind it, because it's got that size behind it, but it's still a nice and compact saw that you can easily go anywhere with. And this is a really great step up when it comes to your saws there to get a lot of work done. So I really like this little chainsaw right here. It's one of my favorite little powerful saws. Like I said, I love the fact that it's actually modeled after a climber's arbor saw right here. A really perfect tool to get into those spaces that you wouldn't normally get into with a large chainsaw. With something like this, you've got that easy setup to get a lot of cutting done, to get a lot of work done in a lot of different places with a compact tool. You don't necessarily need to go for the biggest saw just to get the most work done. This is the kind of saw that really gives you a lot of cutting power, but also gives you some nice compact size there. So really great to use this amazing cordless saw right here, a 10CS, one of my favorite little saws that we have here in the lineup. Love the fact that we get to show off that cool setup here with the tool. But let's talk about leveling up one more time. As we continue to get bigger for those different tasks you want to do with chainsaw here, we got to talk about some big beastly tasks that everyone out there needs to do with their chainsaws. And we're talking about cutting down full trees. We're talking about cutting up a ton of firewood. We're talking about really getting out there and expecting a lot of cutting power out of our saws, as well as, most importantly, cutting size. And let's take a look right here. I'm actually going to put these off to the side right here for now, because this is the big one right here. One of my absolute favorites, if not actually my absolute favorite chainsaw that we have here in our lineup. This is our 24V CS16. This is our 16-inch long cordless chainsaw. Now, this amazing saw here gives us a ton of power and a ton of convenience for that power here. What we have are two 24-volt batteries that run this. So this is 24VX2, as you can see right down there. So two 24-volt batteries, they come together to give us a 48-volt saw right here to get out there and to get a lot of cutting done with. Now, with this saw that you see right here, you have a 16-inch bar end chain. So that's 15.5 inches of cutting capacity you have on the saw underneath the sheath here. Now, plenty of cutting that you can get done in terms of that because you have such a large chain right here. Now, with this, You of course get a lot of the other features that we've talked about, like I said, in the level up sort of scenario when it comes to your saws. You've got that nice bar and you've got that nice set of metal bucking spikes once again here. So nice solid angling capabilities that you have right there with the leverage that you want there. Obviously you also have this auto oiling system right here as well that continues to lubricate that chain as it spins around the bar there. Really nice to have that. You got a chain brake here with a couple of upgrades built into that. Now you also have this right here, which is a tool-free tensioner for your bar and chain. And I'll go over that in just a little bit here. But I want you to take a look. This is a nice lightweight and powerful saw here to get out there and get a lot of that bigger work done. You can see here, this is a lot easier. And in fact, everything that we've talked about here so far is a lot easier than working with a gas saw. No pull starts, no struggling with things like fuel mix. If you've ever worked with gas chainsaws before, and I think a lot of folks who have worked with gas chainsaws are imagining something a little more akin to this. And they're saying to themselves, well, here are all the things that I've dealt with when I've seen gas chainsaws. I've dealt with having to go down to the gas station. I've dealt with having to mix that fuel up with what's called fuel mix, and that's going to be at a 50 to 1 or a 40 to 1 ratio. I'll tell you right now, it's impossible to measure that out sometimes. It's always very frustrating to have to do that kind of math with those fuel mixes there, unless you have, those measurements on hand all the time. And then once you've mixed up gas with that oil there, it's that fuel mix oil, which is like two-stroke oil or anything like that. Once you've mixed that up, you can't use it for much else other than your chainsaw there. So you have to be pretty sure that that's what you're going to want to use it for fuel wise. Now, on top of that, you've got other things to worry about with a gas chainsaw, things like spark plugs to clean and replace over time. You've got the fumes that you're smelling as you're cutting with the saw. You've got the struggles that you have with actually using the pull start. And for example, one of the things that I always struggle with those gas chainsaws is letting them idle. Is when you're using them, sometimes you don't want to turn them off because you're worried you may not be able to get them started back up again, depending on the choke situation on your saw. And I've had that happen many a time in the past there before I was working with those saws professionally. And the fact that it takes all that work to get to that point with a gas chainsaw is not, it's definitely not necessarily something that you have to do. And that's why we have a saw like this in the lineup right here. This replaces that need. This gives you that kind of cutting power right there to get a lot of work done. And this is going to be the saw that you're going to have that you can actually cut down a tree with, that you can actually cut up a ton of firewood with. You can actually cut up everything that you want with. If you want to take a log, turn it into boards, this is a saw that you can use for that. 16-inch bar and chain. You're cutting through most of the trees that we're going to see out there. A lot of us out there aren't really cutting trees down. They're going to be much larger than about 12 inches in diameter anyhow. And when it comes to cutting those trees up, a lot of them are going to be hardwood trees. We're talking about over here in the Northeast, a lot of northern white ash, as well as a lot of red oak. As well as a lot of white oak actually here. So these are all very dense hardwoods, and I've actually used this to cut down a lot of those trees on our property up here. But when you get to the softer woods, things like eastern white pine, and as you go across the country, you're going to look at a lot of SPNF species of lumber. That's spruce, pine, and fir specifically. It's a lot of the softwood species that we see around, the conifer species that we see around that a lot of folks have to cut up. If you want to make Christmas trees or anything like that, this is the kind of saw that you want to have on hand. And the way this powers up is, as I mentioned before, two 24-volt batteries that go into the saw right here. So you can see on the side of the saw right here, we've got this port right here. And this port is for two of the 24-volt batteries that come with this saw. These right here, they slide in. This gives us that 48-volt advantage, as I like to call that. Really kicks up the power that this saw has right here. Now, with that, this saw, of course, having that chain brake there, has some other great features built into that. Before we dive into taking a look at that, we can actually take a look at a couple of other features here on this saw that I want everyone to see here as to why there are some built, well, as to so what we're going to acknowledge is some serious upgrades that we have here in the saw. And one of them is the tool-free tensioner for that bar and chain. So as we were talking about before, this bar and chain here, as you're cutting, that's going to loosen up as you cut there. And this system right here is one of the easiest ways to retension. Now, normally with a chainsaw, you got a couple of bolts here that you have to undo and redo with something called a scrunch. It's sort of like a combo between the wrench and a screwdriver. In this right here, we have a single-handed twisting motion here that tightens and loosens everything up. And what I can do right here is you can see already just a couple of screws there, a couple of unscrewings right there, and we're already loose on our chain. You can see right here how this works. Undo that plate, and in there you've got a metal plate that matches up with this metal plate right here, and these metal plates adjust the tension on that bar and chain in and out here. So this is a very simple system. I like the fact that you see this is metal right here, and this is metal on the inside here as well. This gives us a lot of connective control right there. A lot of times you see these systems here are plastic. This one's metal all on the inside there with a nice rubber over molded grip right here for good comfort in your hand there. So really easy to get this going right here. Now, of course, you take this off, you can take the bar and chain off, you can clean clean up everything that you need if you got a bunch of tree schmoo in there. But we're going to put this back on over here, and you can see it threads on here, and you can see how it just catches into that plate there, and it tensions things up there. So it takes things from loose. So you can see right here, this is loose, and this is going to be too loose for cutting with that saw. All you're going to do is tighten this up here just like that. Look at that. Look at how easy it is for you to get that perfect tension with this. You just keep twisting this forward here. It's going to lock in that automatic tension space right there. There we go. We have that perfect tension there. Again, that automatic oiler will oil that chain as it spins around here. But you get that perfect tension in just seconds right there with that design. And this is something that I love here because, normally when you're cutting with your saw, you have to kind of put things down, adjust everything. This right here, while you're cutting, you never have to stop working. You can just twist that up and you're good to go. It's very, very simple and very easy to get that kind of work done with. So I really love that setup that you have there with that tensioner. Now, one of the other great features that we have here, and another great upgrade built into this saw, which is definitely what helps excel this, is some of the features that we have built into the chain brake right here. And this is an electronic system that we have here that I absolutely love. So we'll plug our batteries in right here. Now, we plug our 224-volt batteries in right there to our chainsaw here. And once again, our chain brake is knocked forward. Again, as I mentioned before, we want to keep that forward until we're ready to cut. Only pull it back right before you're about to cut there. So we'll keep that knocked forward here. Of course, that means the saw will not turn on. Here's what's really great about this that you don't get with a lot of other chainsaws. This little light right here, you can see it right there. And I've never seen this on a gas chainsaw, but I love this feature on here. This little LED light right here, until you pull this back, this light doesn't turn on. But once that light is back, once that chain brake is back and this saw is ready to cut, that light comes on there. This means that whenever I put this down, I've got a clear indicator of when this saw is ready to cut. Even if I know, hey, listen, I thought I knocked this forward. I said that to myself, but I didn't. I can see that light is on. Hey, I didn't come back and knock it forward there. Or if I'm about to cut, why isn't my saw turning on? Well, I know I can see it right there. Pull that right back and I'm ready to start cutting here. So that's a really, really nice little feature that's built in there. It also gives us a status as to what it looks like before we get cutting with that saw. So really nice to have that right there on our chainsaw here. Really love that feature built into this chainsaw in general. This is one of those things that's definitely a clear upgrade from some of the other chainsaws that I've seen out there in the past. Now, I'm going to clamp this up here because I want to power this up. I want you to see the cutting power that this saw here has. We're talking about a lot of serious power with this chainsaw here. You can see how nice and easy it is to get this thing started up here. Now, we're going to throw on our ear protection and our eye protection, of course, just to keep things safe while we're cutting. We always want to be good examples for everyone out there before you get out there and start cutting with your chainsaw here. So I'll pull that chain brake back just like that. And you can see right here, we can power up with this saw. It's as simple as this. There we go. We pull that trigger there. We are absolutely cutting with this chainsaw here. So there we go. And then, of course, I'm using that chain brake to stop that saw between cuts here because that's the safe thing to do. Now, I've set up our little piece of pine right over here in that vise there. We're going to cut through this board here. I just want you to see how easy it is, how easy this makes it. And, of course, with this, I can use those bucking spikes that you see right there, those spikes that we saw on our 10CS. Well, we can actually jam these up against here. We can actually use this to pull that saw right through that cut here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull that chain brake back just like that. Going to power up with this saw here. We're going to cut right through. All right, so power up. Pull that saw down just like that through there. Look at that, just like butter. And it's slicing right through just like that. And then again, a dead stop when I knock that chain brake forward. Boy, is that fun. Now, this can cut through that, and it can cut through a lot more. And you can actually kind of tell that that's pretty light work for this saw right here. We can really cut through bigger boards. We can cut through, more importantly, bigger logs here with absolutely no problem at all. And that's the kind of power that we have here with this saw. So why don't we step up what we're cutting here? Why don't we take a look here? Let's see if we can grab one of the logs that we have over on the side over there. We've got some logs here that we can cut. And we can get a lot of stuff. We can show off the kind of power that we have right here. So we've got a nice, we got a nice big hefty piece of log right here. It's a little short, but we'll make it work right here. So we'll clamp this up in our vise over here. Clamp that up just like that. Let's see if that'll stay. Nope, that one's not going to stick in there just like that. So maybe here's what we'll do: and clamp that down using a clamp on the table over here. See, will that fit right there? There we go. Yeah. All right. So should be able to cut it up just like this right here. So let's take a look at cutting through. This is a piece of northern white ash right here. This is a very dense hardwood here to be cutting through. Just in general, when you're cutting through logs in general, the different species are going to give you a lot of different resistance there. Pine is very soft, which is what we just cut through, but this is pretty hard right here. Let's take a look at getting through this with this chainsaw here. So again, set up, ready to cut there. I'm going to pull that. I'm going to pull that chain brake back here, just like that. Activates that saw. Let's power this up. Look at that. So what I was doing right there, that angling as I was cutting right there, that's using those bucking spikes right there to give me that angle as I'm pulling through there. Particularly because this was moving around just a little bit on me, I could use those as a place to sort of budge that saw up against. But you can really see right here on the inside of that cut. Let's just take a look right there. This only comes from the speed that these kinds of saws run at right here. And this shows to show how powerful this beast of a saw is right here. Look at how nice and seamless these cuts are. Not a ton of chipping, not a ton of tear out on this log right here. Look at how clean and flat that cut is. And that comes from the power behind the saw. And you saw how easy it was for me to really get through that. So that's a lot of power that this saw here has available to it when it comes to cutting things up like that. Now, one more test here that we can do just to see if this saw really gives us that kind of power here. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to double up a set of 2x4s right here, and it's got a couple of screws in it, but we're going to make sure to cut the part that doesn't have screws in it. I actually think I can mount this one in the vise here like so. Yeah, that should be good right there. Let's start clamping that up. Let me get something to block everything out here with, just to make sure that we've got a nice sort of properly set up cutting example right here. Now, this is really nice here because this is essentially going to simulate a 4x4 right here. Essentially, with these two by 4s sort of sandwiched together like this. There we go. Really clamp that down. So that's nice and secure right there when we're cutting through it. And I'm just going to double check that there are no screws from our other demonstrations of the way there. Now, this is just to go and show off the amount of power that the saw here has. And one of the great things is that you can actually bury this saw in pretty much 15 and a half inches of log right there and still get it to cut powerfully. And that's something that I love in general. And you notice I'm not doing this, I'm doing this indoors. We're in a studio right now. We're in our studio here in Hoboken, and we are cutting things up without the smell of gas, without the fumes, without the struggles that you get with other chainsaws. So really easy to do this here. So we'll pull our chainsaw brake back right there, and let's get to cutting through this right here. Now, like I said, this is used for some demonstration, so this has some holes in it, but you'll get to see the idea right here. Power this up right there. Feed that down. Look at that. Absolute butter right here with that saw. I mean, just slid right through there so easily. And that's a double thickness of 2x4 right there. That's essentially emulating a 4x4 right there in terms of the amount that we cut through, obviously minus some of the holes that were in there. But, that's what we had lying around to cut up here. And that's an amazing amount of power that you have in that saw. In fact, actually, you have a 1200-watt motor in there to get a lot of cutting done with. So you do have a serious amount of power here available to you from that 48-volt advantage. That is, of course, those two 24-volt batteries coming together to give you that incredible output on this saw right here. Not to mention all those features that really allow you to get more work done when it comes to a bigger saw just like this. And that's something that I love in general. That's the thing that I love overall, is that we really do have a saw for everyone here. With the 16-inch chainsaw right here, we're doing the work like cutting up trees. We're doing the work like cutting up those big pieces of firewood, maybe cutting lumber out of those logs, and really cutting up the big heavy hardwood stuff. Now we move on back to our 10CS right here. This is really giving us that lightweight capability to get a lot of the work done there when it comes to cutting up things like our smaller trees, our smaller branches in general. But it gives us that nimbleness to get into those tight spaces. A different saw for all those different jobs. And then, of course, the brand new right here, our 24V 10CS right here, our little compact 10-inch, or sorry, not our 10CS, our HCS right here, a little compact 5-inch chainsaw right here. One of my favorites as well, because this compact lightweight saw gets a lot of that small cutting done so that you don't have to haul this big old saw out there to get, things like small branches, things like kindling trimmed up and stuff like that. You're actually getting it cut with this lightweight saw. You can actually use a one-handed, you can grab You grab a branch, trim it off right there. You don't have to worry about trying to heft out, bigger saws when you need to get smaller work done. So you can see the three different levels there. We are leveling up with these saws as we're getting the job done, and we're doing it all under the same 24-volt platform here. So that same battery that I plugged into this saw right here, you got two of them in here. Well, one of them can plug into this saw right here. This battery will also plug into our 10-inch chainsaw right here, just like that. So you can see this battery is universal with everything here. Not to mention the fact this saw right here comes with our 4 amp hour battery. This is the same battery right here. This is the same battery platforms. The way I like to think of it right here is that these are your juice boxes, and this one just has a little more juice in the box. Essentially, the idea is here this larger battery is just going to run longer. It's going to give you more runtime. So if you got your 2 amp hour juice box right here, you're going to get that good juice from this tool, from your tool with a lightweight battery here. You got your 4 amp hour juice box here. You got more juice. It's going to last you a little longer there, but of course, it's going to be a little bit bigger in general. Now, this is going to plug. This comes with our 10-inch chainsaw right here, but this of course plugs into all these saws as well, giving us that option to power all of these up with whatever battery in our 24-volt lineup. Any of the tools that you might grab come with here. So it really becomes a universal family here. And this becomes a family of saws that you can use out there. And if you just want to get started, go for the HCS. Use it to trim up those trees. Use it to trim up that small kindling there. If you need something with some more power, if you know you're going to need to be doing those bigger jobs, the 10CS right there is the one to grab when it comes to cutting down small trees, cutting up firewood consistently, and getting bigger branches trimmed up there. But of course, if you know that you're doing the biggest of work, if you're going to be grabbing the heftiest of saws, you're going to have to take a look at our CS16 right here. 16-inch bar and chain, 15 and a half inches of cutting, a 1200-watt motor to back all of that cutting power up. That saw right there, absolute beast. My personal favorite of the three here, although it kind of, honestly, I love all three of these. They're all a favorite in one part of my soul there. This one right here gets a lot of the heavy work done that I do in the yard and garden. I like to cut up a lot of trees. Like I said, have that history as an arborist. Can't put it down right there. I enjoy cutting up wood. I enjoy turning trees into lumber. This is a great saw for that. I'll cut down an ash tree with this, and I'll trim that up into boards. I'll trim that up into 4x4s and use that for different projects that I have. The 10CS right here is probably one of the best compact saws that I've grabbed to do a lot of that small work with, particularly when it's delimbing things. And of course, the HCS here is just so useful because of that compact, lightweight design. I'm getting into tight spaces. I'm doing things like trimming up boards before I'm throwing it in the back of the car. This is just an awesome little saw to have around to prune things around, and of course to cut up those smaller bits and bobs there. Really great all across the board right here with these saws. But when it comes to all across the board is what I meant there. Um, these are really awesome saws we have right here. You see, you have your three different levels as you level up to those bigger jobs. So I hope everyone enjoyed our my little detailed rant here on these three saws, on the ways that you can level up from small chainsaw like this to a big one like this right here, levels 1, 2, and 3. When it comes to getting out there with your saws, big thank you to everyone out there for watching the show, and of course, if you're leaving those comments there, big thank you for saying hi. Appreciate it too if you drop in a like right there. Hit that thumbs up button. Or for example, if you're watching on TikTok here, we are on TikTok and on Amazon and on YouTube right now. So on TikTok, hit that little heart there. Give us some hearts. We really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, and of course, don't forget to subscribe as well. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to know about the TikTok, on TikTok we are Snow Joe Co. If you're watching on TikTok and you want to know about the YouTube, we are Go with Joe on YouTube. That's the Go with Joe channel. Recently, we're starting this up to help out and give some folks some information on some of these tools, and that's why we love being able to do these live streams here and talk about these tools in such a way like this. So definitely hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube or on Snowjoe or on TikTok there, following our Snowjoe Co channel there. Be sure to definitely hit that thumbs up or hit that like button. We really do appreciate that here. And again, thank you so much for hanging out with us here while we're talking about these great saws. Be sure to check them out at snowjoe.com. All these saws names are listed there in that description there as well. So big thank you to everyone for watching, and folks, we will see you all in the next one.